Over the last 3.5 years, our host for today has been a tireless champion of economic development and growth in our state. The vision statement that we all know loud and clear, regardless of agency, regardless of effort, is to grow Nebraska. In our governor's term, we've seen 9-figure investment projects from companies like Facebook, Costco, and Becton Dickinson. We've seen thousands of new jobs created across our state, rural and urban. The cups to my left are proof positive that we're one of the most active economic development states in the country, per capita effectuating more projects over the last 2 years than North Dakota, South Dakota, and Kansas combined. There's no silver bullet answer for economic development. It's why our governor has championed efforts and effectuated legislation that addresses rural workforce housing, a critical issue for all of us, talent and workforce development, and has pushed back on regulation that hampers the growth of business. We've seen over $840 million in property tax reductions during our governor's term, and the growth of spending in our state cut by 90%, paving the way for business and community growth. Our host for today, the 40th governor of our state, the Honorable Pete Ricketts.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you very much for that warm reception, and thank you all very much for being here today to talk about economic development in our state. Why are we all here? Why are you in this room? Well, if you're in this room, it's because, first of all, you were fortunate enough to be born in the greatest country the world's ever seen. And through education, hard work, and taking advantage of opportunities, you've been able to have a successful career. Been able maybe to provide for your family. And you want to see those same benefits continue here in our state. Because we know that economic development, economic growth benefits all of us. There's a lot of talk in the world today about sustainability. But fundamentally, everything depends upon economic stability. That if we don't have economic growth, just about anything else we want to have accomplished isn't going to work, isn't going to happen. And so you all are here today because you have had those opportunities. And you want to see that continue in the future. And you want to make sure that everybody else, every young person, every child that's being born in this state has the same opportunities that you have had to be able to pursue the American dream. That's why we're here today. That's why we've gathered from all across the state of Nebraska, and even folks from outside of the state and outside our country have come here today to talk about what are we going to do to continue this great prosperity that we have all had the chance to be able to enjoy. That we do live in the land of opportunity, where education, hard work, perseverance, and the help of others has allowed us to be successful. Now, as Dave said, the vision for my administration is to grow Nebraska. And by that I mean create more and better paying jobs, keep our kids and grandkids here, and attract other people from around the country and indeed around the world to come make Nebraska their home. Again, creating that opportunity to be able to enjoy the same prosperity we have. And while we're thinking about what are the strategies we're pursuing to be able to make that happen, they kind of fall into 4 big categories. The first of which is developing our people. The second of which is how are we easy to do business with at the state of Nebraska. The third is making sure we're managing our budget and cutting taxes, being competitive on taxes. And the fourth, we have to go out and promote ourselves. We've got to go out and tell our story to the rest of the country and the rest of the world. So I'm going to hit a bit upon all of those here this morning, starting with developing our people. Now, as the former Chief Operating Officer at what is now TD Ameritrade, we have literally hired thousands of people. And I know that when you hire a Nebraskan, you get somebody who's well educated, who's got a great work ethic, who's going to be loyal, customer oriented, and help your company succeed. And that is the single greatest resource we have here in our state. It's our people. Nebraskans love to work. And so when we go out and talk to other companies about investing here, that's the first thing we should always be talking about, is harnessing our people. But we have to develop that talent as well. And we do that in a variety of ways. One of the ways we do that is we have a grant program called the Developing Youth Talent Initiative to encourage private sector companies to work with school districts in 7th and 8th grade to be able to let our young people know about all the great career opportunities we have in the state in fields like manufacturing, automotives, construction, logistics, computer coding. And a lot of those fields don't require a 4-year degree. Or you can start by getting your 2-year degree and then go get that 4-year degree later, and your company will actually pay for it. And then you can get that 4-year degree without a lot of debt. And we've got thousands of jobs that are available right now in those fields. So we want to encourage our young people to pursue those. We also think about investing in our people through our Department of Transportation. I saw Kyle Schneeweiss was here. Kyle, you're somewhere, right? Yep, there's Kyle. Kyle and I just last week were announcing our budget for the fiscal year 19. We will be investing a record historic high of $600 million in our transportation system and working on major capital improvements like 275 becoming a 4-lane between Scribner and West Point, the Lincoln South Beltway, and in Fremont, the Southeast bypass that will help assist Costco with their investment here in our state. Also this week, I was out with our director, our CEO of Health and Human Services, Courtney Phillips, talking about our 3rd business plan for the Department of Health and Human Services and how we're focusing on, again, investing in our people, helping people live better lives. Some of the priorities there will be looking at how we can get better outcomes, birth outcomes, trying to reduce some of those preterm deliveries. We also look at developing our workforce, people who are already here, changing our unemployment system into a reemployment system. And by doing that, we've reduced the amount of time people are spending unemployed. And in 2016, we reduced the number of weeks of benefits paid out by over 20%, reduced the number of people reaching the end of their benefits by 30%, and paid out fewer benefits to such that we can reduce our unemployment insurance tax in 2017 by 25%, saving Nebraska businesses nearly $20 million. And folks, that's a win-win-win. Person gets a job, company gets somebody to hire, and taxpayers save money. That's the way government's supposed to work. And now we're taking those same job coaches that are helping people get back to work faster and using them in our Department of Health and Human Services to help our families who are on SNAP, the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, food stamps, to be able to find better jobs. In fact, we've been able to help about 36% of the families who participate in that program find a job and help increase their income on average of $10,000 a year, and every single one of those families has reduced or eliminated their need for food stamps and improved their quality of life. In fact, we had a young woman in Grand Island, single mom, working nights and weekends, part-time, making $900 a month, no benefits, no pension. We got her a job paying $2,700 a month with benefits, a pension, chance for bonuses, and best of all, she gets to work during the day, so now she can be home at night with her kids. Again, win, win, win. That's how we invest in our people. So that's kind of the first big category. Now the second category is how do we make sure we're easy to do business with the state? And that means cutting the regulatory red tape, making sure we're focusing on our process to do a better job. And I can tell you that it works. We have done a tremendous job of streamlining our operations. We've implemented Lean Six Sigma. In fact, everybody in my agencies, almost 13,000 people, have gone through the introductory level, the Lean Six Sigma White Belt training. We've got over 2,800 yellow belts, 22 green belts, 29 executive green belts, 1 black belt, and 2 black belts in training. And they've worked on a variety of projects that have helped us reduce the amount of time it takes us by 2/3 to issue a nurse license. 80% reduction to get back to families on developmental disabilities, whether or not they qualify. Reduced our environmental permitting. I'll just tell one story here real quick. For our air construction permits, we were having our Kaizen meeting on this. We had the conference room lined with all the steps it takes to issue one of those air construction permits. 110. And our process improvement coordinator said, our customers, and he used the word customers, will only pay for 4, meaning that only 4 of those steps added value. So they went to work slashing the number of steps in the handoffs, the useless complexity and waste that doesn't add any value. And now what used to take 188 days to issue that air construction permit has been cut down to 88 days. And it makes a difference. Yahoo was expanding their data center in La Vista. They needed some permits for their emergency engines. We were able to turn those around to them in 2 days. In another state on the West Coast, they told us they've been waiting 8 months, and 2 years later, I still don't think they have their permits in that other state. Folks, when we can be known as a place where people want to invest, people will invest in. So that's how we become easy to do business with the state. Focusing on our processes, cutting the red tape. We're actually in the midst of a process right now to cut the number of words in our regulatory, our regulations, to be able to streamline and make those easier. So that's kind of the second big piece. Now that also flows into the third piece, which is managing our budget and cutting taxes. Because you all know in the private sector, your competition drives you to do a better job every single day and reduce your costs at the same time. For some reason in government, people think that, well, if you're controlling spending, you must be cutting services. It doesn't have to be that way. You know that if you went to your customers and said, hey, I'm going to cut your prices, but I'm also going to slash your services, your customers would go someplace else. They go to your competition. So we have to do the same thing in government. We have to be able to do a better job providing services and control our costs at the same time. And I just told you about all the ways we're measuring how we're doing a better job, but we're also controlling the budget. As Dave said, we've cut the growth of government by over 90%. The budget was growing at 6.5% a year before I took over. This last budget I just signed, 0.5%. And we're doing a better job in all these agencies. By doing that, that also sets us up for that tax relief. We've been able to manage our budget, even though we had to close a $900 million gap between what our forecasted revenues are and what they were. We did that last year without raising taxes. We had another $200 million we had to tackle this year. We did that without raising taxes. And because we were controlling spending, working with the legislature, we've been able to increase the property tax credit relief fund by over 60% and sustain that. And that's tax relief. That's dollar for dollar tax relief from the state to all property owners in the state. That's possible because we were controlling spending. That's that over $840 million Dave was talking about. And that controlling our spending sets us up for future tax relief as well. It's kind of like in your businesses. If you've got revenues, keep your expenses flat, that's profit. Well, that's how we get tax relief as well. That's how we sustain that tax relief. So that's the third piece. And then the fourth piece is we got to go out and tell our story. And this is where you all can come in. Last night we had the dinner for the Nebraska diplomats. If you're not a diplomat, think about joining it. It's a great way to help promote our state. But you don't have to be a diplomat to talk our state up to your colleagues that you run into across the country. Let them know that Nebraska is the best place to grow a business, that we've got fantastic people. You're not going to hire anybody better than a Nebraskan. Go out and sell that story. That's what I do as well. I've been on international trade missions to Japan twice, China twice, the European Union, Canada. I'm going to go to Mexico next month, all telling the Nebraska story. It helps open up doors for our producers, like Preferred Popcorn, who's been selling their popcorn into China. In fact, we got to watch Norm Krug sign an extension of his trade agreement with his Chinese trading partner when I was there on our last trip to China. It also develops relationships so that those companies invest back here in our state and create jobs. We've met with Kawasaki every time I've been to Japan. And last year, they created their first ever aerospace division in the United States right here in Lincoln. $12.5 million investment, 50 more jobs. Kawasaki's been in Lincoln for over 40 years. We went to Europe, we talked to Novozymes, a Danish company. They were looking at expanding in the United States. The choice was North Carolina or Nebraska. Last year, they picked Nebraska, $36 million. When we were in Canada, we talked to Agri-Plastics. They were deciding on their first expansion in the United States. They picked Sidney, Nebraska. All these are cases where companies made the choice to invest in our state because of the relationships. And again, that's where you can help strengthen that every time you talk to somebody that doesn't do business in Nebraska and encourage them to do business here. It also works in some very exotic places like New York City, Silicon Valley, and Seattle. We go there to say thank you to those companies who invested and talk to other companies to encourage them to invest in our state. Great example of that was Costco. Costco came to Nebraska because of a great team effort between the city of Fremont, the Fremont Area Economic Development Council, the Omaha Chamber, our Department of Agriculture, Economic Development, Transportation, Environmental Quality, all working together to meet the needs of Costco. So they invested $300 million, going to create 800 jobs, plus the opportunity for 125 farmers to put up poultry barns, to be able to diversify their revenue stream, build equity in their operation, and bring young people back to their operation. We think that's going to have an over $1 billion impact on our state. And all of these things roll together to make Nebraska a leader in economic development, as Dave was talking about. Dave pointed to these 2 cups. These are the 2 governor's cups that we have won for the last 2 years in a row for having the most economic development projects per capita of any state in the nation. And as Dave said, and he's totally stole my line on this one, more than North Dakota, South Dakota, and Kansas combined for 2 years in a row. That is creating those opportunities here in our state. We're being recognized for this nationally, not only with these Governor's Cup, but CNBC just ranked Nebraska the 2nd best state for cost of business. Since 2014, Nebraska has seen the 3rd highest wage growth of any state in the country. Forbes ranks us the 4th best state for business. We have the 5th lowest unemployment rate in the country. The Mercatus Center at George Mason University ranks us the 6th most fiscally stable state in the country. And earlier this year, U.S. News and World Report ranked Nebraska the 7th best state overall. I think they got that one a little wrong. I think we're the best state overall. And I think again, it gets back to our people. Because Nebraskans are the best people in the world. We have a tremendous opportunity in front of us. We have a tremendous workforce. We know Nebraskans love to work and they do a great job. We've got to make sure that we're harnessing that workforce, that we're not putting up any necessary obstacles, that we're being competitive compared to our neighboring states and states across the country when it comes to regulatory policy and taxes. And we know we've got to go out and sell our story. We've got to tell people. We can't just build a better mousetrap and expect people to show up at our door. It doesn't work that way. You all know that. We've got to go out and tell our story. And what you're going to hear today are some of the things we can do to build upon the tremendous foundation that we've got here in our state. Some of the things we know we can do to continually be competitive in an ever-changing and dynamic world. You're going to be able to see what other people are doing. And I think this is just as important, even if it's an intangible, develop the network of people that you can work with to be able to solve those problems in your local communities, to steal other people's good ideas and work together. And folks, that's one of the things that we absolutely have to take advantage of here in Nebraska, is that we have a history and a tradition in the state of collaborating, of working together to solve our common problems. And so we have to leverage that strength by working together to be able to do that, to compete with everybody else. Now, I know you get that because you're here in this room today. You wouldn't be here if you didn't believe that. So take advantage of this opportunity to make those networks, exchange those business cards, get to know the folks around you. Because the people in this room are our single greatest strength. And that is how we remain competitive, and that is how we continue to attract that economic development that creates those jobs so that our young people can find their careers right here in Nebraska. Again, we've got an exciting program here for you today. I'm grateful that you've made the time out of your busy schedules to be here. Thank you, not only for being here today, but for all you do to grow Nebraska and make this the best place in the world to live, work, and raise a family. God bless you in all that you do, and God bless the great state of Nebraska.